All right, so last time we were taking a look at 7.3, and we had worked through some ideas about how to change a fraction into a decimal with division. And then we worked a little bit harder and thought a little bit more, because this one's the one that we're less comfortable with, the idea of changing decimals that are repeating back into fractions. And we had a very different sort of looking description of how that worked, and we did a couple of those. And then we were on example 5. And so we were taking a look at, or we're going to take a look then at finding a decimal between 0.9 repeating and 1.1. So one way that you could handle this is you could take that 0.9 repeating and turn it back into a fraction, or figure out what that number sort of looks like in a non-repeating form. That's one way to handle it. The other way to handle it is what I'm going to actually show you. So if you were looking at numbers, say 0.5 and 0.4, okay, no repeating anything, nothing that looks a little bit out of the ordinary, and you wanted to find a decimal between them, one of the ways to do that would be to add the two numbers together and divide by 2, right? Averaging, and that's what you do when you do your grade average of all your tests, for instance, in the class, or all your homework, and finally add them all together and divide by the number you're working with. We can do the same thing with these, but we can do them with the repeating part going on. So this one right here, and we have 1.1. So one way to deal with this is to actually physically add them together and divide by 2. Okay? So you could take your calculator and you could just put in a whole bunch of 9s. I don't care how many you put in, but put in a bunch of them. Add it to the number 1.1 and divide by 2. And if you do that, you're actually doing part B on this problem, right? So let me move what I'm doing down to B. Because we're finding the number halfway between. All right, so what's your calculator say? .05 if you put in enough .9s. If you put in enough 9s after that, we tell you it's 1.05. Or awfully close to that, maybe 1.04, something like that, right? So you're sort of rounding for me to 1.05. So this is the number halfway between, but I don't know about you, but that looks a little bit odd. Because I would think that 1.05, as in like $1.05, would be halfway between $1.10 and what else? In what? $1. $1. Sorry, I can't hear you. And $1. So if I had $1 and another person has $1.10, and we average them together, $1.05 would be halfway between. And that's true. And the reason that that's happening is because that 0.9 repeating, if you do turn it back into actually a fraction, it's actually the number 1. Okay? A little bit unusual, maybe not what you expected, but it is. The decimal 0.9 repeating is the number 1. So if you were just finding a decimal halfway between, this is what you can do. If you're just asked to find any decimal between them, you have lots of options. So somebody give me one. Any decimal between these. 1 point what?
0.
Actually, that's the only thing that's not going to work.
Oh, really? Sorry.
And do you know why?
Oh, because 0.9 is 1.
Yeah, because these are actually exactly equal.
1.08.
Okay, so 1.08 would work. Somebody give me another one. Just for fun, give me 2 more and we'll move on, I promise. 1.04. Another one. 1.06. All right, so depending on how the question's asked, depends on what you have to do. If you're asked to find a number halfway between, you are going to actually average them, okay? And you just put a lot of the 9s in your calculator to deal with that. If you're asked to find any number between them, you can simply look at the numbers and say, oh, this is 1.0, this is 1.1, and the 0.9 is, slightly less than 1. If you can think about it that way, that's fine. I need a number between them, and any of those numbers would work. Okay, last question in the section. Some addition problems are easier to compute with fractions. I know you hated hearing that right then. It's actually true. And some are easier to compute with decimals. For example, 1/7 plus 5/7 is what? 6/7, and you didn't strain your brain, right? But 1/7 is actually equal to this repeating decimal right here, and 5/7 is equal to this repeating decimal over here. And as much as you may think you like decimals, I don't think you want to add the decimals right there together, right? That's going to be much more difficult, okay? And 0.4 and 0.25, okay, is easier to compute than 2/5 and 1/4. So describe situations in which you think it would be easier to work with fractions versus decimals, or decimals versus fractions. Under what circumstances would you like one versus the other? So let's start with, when would I like to work with fractions? What would make things easy to deal with if I'm working with fractions?
The decimal would be non-terminating.
Okay, so if I'm working with a non-terminating decimal, if it's a non-terminating decimal, it might be easier to work with the fractions. But that's not always true, right? Because like 1/3 is a non-terminating decimal. If I wanted to add 1/3 and 1/3 together, I'd be happy to add those together as well. So what else would make fractions maybe easier to work with?
And they have like the same denominator.
That's a biggie, right? So if they already have the same denominator, or maybe even if it was easy to work with to find a common denominator, right? So maybe, or an easy to find denominator. So if I was working with either of those situations, that'd be okay. I'd be happy to work with fractions under those considerations. When would it be easier to work with decimals? So the first one's easy to write because it's the opposite of what Kayla said for the other ones. If they terminate, right? You might also like to work with decimals a little bit better if they aren't very many digits long. Right? Even if you have these right here and they don't have the repeats on top of them, they're not real friendly to work with because they're so long. So maybe if they have a few digits, that might make it a little bit friendlier. Is there anything else you might think of? So these are some ideas about why sometimes you think you don't like fractions. But there are cases in which you may very well like fractions much better than you thought you ever did.